Ricketts.
Thank you, Chairman Atkins, for being here today. The United States has the strongest and most trusted capital markets in the world, and that didn't happen by accident. It happened because we have a system that relies on clear rules, reliable disclosures, and enforcement that is predictable and grounded in law. This is near and dear to my heart as I worked in a regulated industry. Fair and transparent regulations allow our country to have the most transparent liquid markets in the world. And those standards are even more important in a time of strategic competition, especially when we're talking about Communist China. Communist China is not an ordinary foreign market participant. They are the biggest existential threat to our country, largest external threat to our country. They are a strategic competitor with a state-directed economy. Communist China operates with no transparency, imposes restrictions that prevent U.S. regulators from having the same inspection and enforcement access that we would expect here at home. Chairman Atkins, do you agree that these differences limit the SEC's ability to provide the same level of oversight and investor protection for China-based companies as it does for domestic issuers?
Yeah, well, thank you, Senator. There are a number of issues to work out. I agree with respect to the various markets and where these securities are from. So.
Well, you have an agreement through the PCAOB with the Chinese regulators established in 2022 that allows us inspection access to Chinese-based audit firms. And despite existing law requiring foreign firms to open up their audits for our inspectors, Chinese companies have been shielding their books and used auditors under their control to provide dishonest information and withhold data. All the while, we cannot audit Chinese companies directly to get to the bottom of the truth. And we have not taken action to delist non-compliant Chinese companies from our stock exchange because of this. Given that the PCAOB inspections have identified significant audit deficiencies at Chinese firms serving China-based issuers, do you believe it creates an uneven playing field for U.S. companies when those issuers can access our markets without being subject to the same level of oversight and inspections?
Well, yes, sir. I think, so a couple things. One is, just this week we swore in some new members, new chairman and new members for the Public Accounting Oversight Board. And so that is one of the things that the new board will be focused on, with respect to China related companies. And then and how actually, that the ones that are listed here in the United States, whether or not, there is a robust access by, competent auditors operating, under our rules, are working with those particular companies. And then secondly, we put out a release back in the summer asking questions regarding foreign private issuers, and especially those companies that are, maybe based in another country, incorporated, say, in the Caribbean, but then their primary listing is here in the United States, such as on NASDAQ, and whether or not that the accommodations generally given to foreign private issuers, which are predicated on of a robust regulatory scheme, in the home country, is actually also the case in some cases, like with Chinese companies that are listed here. So we are out to address this, and so I agree with your issues there.
Great. Well, I'm glad you brought this topic up because there's about 286 Chinese companies that are listed on our exchanges as of March of last year. 151 of them are these variable interest entities, VIEs, and they have the arrangement you're talking about. They're taking advantage, rather, of the arrangement you're talking about, and they represent over $1 trillion. That's $1 trillion of American citizens' savings that are going into these firms, and they use these structures because Chinese law restricts foreign ownership in key sectors, so they can't sell the equity in operating companies directly to U.S. investors. So they set up these companies, as you said, say up in the Cayman Islands or whatever it is, and instead investors buy shares in an offshore holding company that relies on these contracts, but not ownership, to have economic interest in the business. Chairman Atkins, do you believe the average American retail investor understands that difference today?
Yeah, well, I fear that maybe they don't, and so we are looking at the disclosures around these sorts of entities and how that is actually being accomplished now or not.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I think you need to look very closely at these disclosure requirements and take action against any Chinese firm that is not complying with U.S. law. And if we cannot get the same sort of comfort from a Chinese company, they should be delisted from our exchanges. And we should not allow Americans to fund our chief adversary in the world. With that, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.